So here we are, Hinesburg Selectboard.
I make a motion to come out of executive session.
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And so we called the meeting to order at 6 o'clock. We immediately went into executive session to discuss the Hannaford DRB denial of their permit. And at the executive session was the select board. Marilee is in California, but she's joining us via the phone. And we went into executive session with Alex, David, Rue, and then Joy and Renee. We were in there for about an hour. There were no actions needed coming out of executive session. So we're going to move to item 3 of the agenda, additions, deletions, any changes to our agenda, our published agenda? I don't think so. No. This is an opportunity for public comment. There's no one here to provide public comment, I don't think. No public comment?
Only if you're going to talk about what you just summarized from your executive sessions.
No, I think that's it, yeah.
I mean, I can go get dinner?
You can,
All
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
It
And
won't be more than three hours. So,
And I do want to comment about the last meeting we had, which talked about the Hannaford decision. And we had a full crowd here. And we opened it up. We allowed public comment. The select board heard all the public comment. And then we said, okay, does anybody else have anything more to say? No, at that point. And people pretty much went out. And then the select board did continue talking about it, I think, debriefing. And we had some public comment saying, geez, that didn't seem fair. Yeah, it was an open session. And I don't think anything was intentional there. It's all open, public. But I think in the going forward, I'll keep that certainly, consider that next time to make sure people know that, we may continue to discuss the items. There was nothing intentional there to hide anything. We didn't make any decisions. It was just really, it was like, what did we hear and what do we think our next steps were? And we did say our next step would be to get legal counsel, which is where our executive session happened today. But
I watched your session on VCAM. I was out of state. And I will say, I've been to a lot of select board and DRB meetings for a long time, and I think it's really important that the discussion that you have be a public discussion, not just the votes. I think that's what people were concerned about. A lot of you articulated very interesting thoughts, and you've been thinking about this, and you put them on, you shared them with each other, and your public didn't get to hear that. They'd all left.
Mm-hmm. So fair enough, yeah. I think so. Going forward, try to recognize when to prevent that issue. Again.
Right, so it might be that we say that we've heard from the public and now we're going to talk about it. I think there sometimes is the effort of like letting us discuss it, and then they're going to want to comment on that. And so how do we figure out how to keep our meetings kind of moving, because we had a lot of other things on the agenda, and be able to have that. And so it might be that we have to say, we're talking about this and we're not going to take more public, like
right now.
Public comment portion of
Right.
the discussion.
Right.
Okay.
yeah, and to be fair, I don't think there was an intention on any of us. It just organically happened as people were leaving the room. There's still a lot of commotion going on out there. We had gone through the agenda. We were sort of wrapping up. We were trying to find closure on the evening, very busy evening, with a lot of voices, a lot of conversation, and we just talk, right? We talk in front of the camera, on the mic, on the record. I think that's all it was. It was nothing intentional, just organically sort of
I think
happened.
that was apparent from VCAM, that you just sort of stumbled into that
Yeah,
process.
we just sort of stumbled into it,
I
yeah.
think they were just processing the different ideas that people had in the audience and how they would make that happen. Like, what would be the warning times, or what would those things look like? I think they were just sort of
This is
processing.
the best time to have the discussion.
Right.
Absolutely.
right, Yeah.
Yeah, when it was right there,
Yeah.
fresh.
Yeah, and I think,
But we shouldn't have dismissed them.
no, and I don't know that we did. We just
we
said.
did,
yeah.
Yeah,
Still open
I
meeting.
think we're
Right,
good.
Yeah, it was still- yeah.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I guess it's a learning experience. I take it, genuinely as good criticism to move forward next time around. So I thought it was worth just sort of bringing that up.
Yeah, thank you, Phil.
Mary Lee, you're still there, right?
I sure am
Oh,
listening.
okay, good. I just want to make sure. The
you.
next item on the agenda, number 4, is a discussion with Paul Wieczoreck, our tree warden, and discussion about some tree maintenance, specifically the emerald ash borer. We have in our packet. It's not a proposal, but it's an estimate of what we potentially might do.
Estimate, yeah, it's for some other things as well, other than just emerald ash borer treatment. But, thanks for taking the time to meet with me tonight. So, in this proposal, there's, like I just mentioned, there's several different things. We could talk about all of these, I guess. Well, I don't know, do you guys have questions, or how do you want to do this? Do you want to ask me questions, or?
I've got a couple.
Okay.
So the treatment, I assume that's for every tree on this map?
No, it's just for two specific trees.
Oh, I did read that actually.
Yeah, two very large. It's the one on the corner right over here, right across the street from Lampman's, right on the corner of
Cover all the
Charlotte
utility
Road.
lines there,
Yeah, massive
Yeah,
ash.
yeah.
And then there's a similar sized one that's behind the, the old
In lot
police
one,
station,
In lot
really.
one, the big
Lot
one in lot
one.
one,
Oh,
yeah.
that's an ash?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so
and-
big, it's hard to even tell it's an ash, yeah.
And that tree we've spent some money on already. We've done some
The one
pruning.
right behind the old police station building?
Yeah, it's a massive tree.
Yeah.
So in the sense that that space is going to become public, it's really an important part of that overall space there for sure. So why don't we talk about that, I guess. So, one of the issues we're facing right now is this insect that's been imported from China, and it's potentially going to devastate ash trees throughout North America. Those two trees seem to be, high value trees, and it seemed like it was worthwhile to investigate the possibility of having those trees treated to see what that would cost and whether or not that's something that the town wanted to support and felt was important enough to continue, maintaining those trees. So you can see on this proposal here, they're going to do what's called a root injection. So they're taking this insecticide and they're actually really physically pumping it into the vascular system of the tree so that the tree absorbs this pesticide, and then anything that would potentially feed on the sap of the tree would be killed by the ingestion of this pesticide. Now this stuff would be present at a toxic level for about 2 years. So each one of these treatments, which is one $650, the other $750, would be, for a 2-year period of time. The strategy that we're thinking about is that right now, emerald ash borer has been found in a few places within the state of Vermont. Most recently, it just showed up in Grand Isle. Mm-hmm. And I think the estimate is that these things can probably move about 30 years in a year. Something
30
like
miles
that.
in a
30
year?
miles, in a year. And so we've got a little bit of time, but we don't have a lot of time. So the thought was that if we got these trees treated next spring, let's say, and even if there was an infestation in the summertime, or even if they were already infected, let's not use the word infested, but even if there were already some beetles in there, those would be killed, and then it would be sort of a preventative from that point on. So it's possible we could wait a whole nother year because it's not here yet. But I think it probably makes sense to do a treatment next year. I don't know, 50-50 on that one. I mean, you're rolling the dice, but it doesn't necessarily kill the tree the first year. I think most trees are going to take a couple years. The tree over here is particularly worrisome because it's already having some other issues. It seems to have some decline. We've been watching it for a number of years. It's been treated for other things. It's been pruned. And in addition to the emerald ash borer treatment with an insecticide, there's also a recommendation here that we do a couple of other things to that tree, and we might as well just talk about that while we're talking about that tree.
Can I just ask?
Yep.
So this is the first that I've heard that, I think some towns, their reaction is like, cut them all down.
They've backed off on that.
Yeah. So this is a newer sort of approach.
Well,
or
not really. It's really more a question of coming to the realization that there are specific trees maybe within a community that, because of their size and their historic importance, they're worth protecting.
Okay.
It's worth going above and beyond to try to protect these trees. I mean, that's been done for years with elms, for example. I mean, you
Okay.
see these big, beautiful
In the center of
elms
town.
in some park or something like that. And those trees are, they're managed for that, for that disease. So basically, it's going to be the same thing with the emerald ash borer. If we decide that we want to, continue to have these trees as part of our urban forest, so to speak, then we need to
Okay.
to do this, and we need to do it on a regular basis.
So there's the two line items in there specifically for this control of the emerald ash borer.
Right.
So it would be a question of appropriating that money now so it can happen in the spring before the next budget season, right? So, but then perhaps we want to consider putting money in the budget for the following years, or
Well, yeah, it would be 2 years from this spring, so
Yeah.
however
Right.
you want to do that, yeah.
or whether we want to treat any other trees, whether it's worth treating anything in the parking lots, or
Well,
whether
we can
we need to be
discuss
thinking
that,
about
yeah.
a replanting budget
Right.
for all the, I mean, we've planted a lot of trees. I mean, this map shows all the trees all the ash trees that have been planted. And then we also have all the ash trees that are in the town forest. So the town forest committee may be coming to us with,
A plan to control that.
yeah, I mean, the county forester's been talking with them about it, but.
The plan to actually control
Well, just some different
more
management
silvicultural-
strategies,
yeah.
both, and there's another arborist who is a avid mountain biker who has an idea for how to raise some money in the town forest to perhaps target some trees there, so that there's a multi-prong approach to this. But right now, we're just talking
Yeah.
about these.
And we do budget some money for the tree plantings and things. So, I mean, we may not have to say, this is what we're going to do in 2 years or 3 years, but by having some money in the budget, we can properly maintain the trees we have, plant a few more maybe, and or treat trees. Okay.
Right. Well, that was another thing I wanted to talk to you guys about if we had time, was really kind of talking about a strategy for dealing with, at least in my case, the trees that are in the public
Yeah.
right away, that were part of the inventory that was done a couple of years ago. So I think maybe why don't we just finish talking about this proposal first, and so with that one tree in mind here, the one that's having some issues other than the potential infestation from emerald ash borer, the proposal was to do some root invigoration, which involves going in around the base of the tree in the soil, and just coming in with a compressor that injects high pressure air into the soil. It breaks the soil up, helps aerate the soil. And then I think they're talking about adding some biochar maybe in
Yes. The booster liquid, that?
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. And then also a fertilizer treatment. So all those things would be another, another 1,200 and let's see. The root injection was what, $1,200? Root invigoration.
Yeah, 1,200.
Right. But then we were also talking about,
Then there's the sugar maple.
yeah,
Sugar maple, that's such a great thing.
soil care. Okay, the very first item, soil care and fertilization.
Yeah,
applied
so that's
boost
for that
liquid.
tree.
Yeah, so that's in addition to the other two things, so we're
So the pest
looking at,
management, the soil.
right, so there's three items.
Yep, for
For a
that one
total of
tree.
like $2,200 for just one tree.
What's it going
So,
to cost to take it down?
to remove that tree, I don't know, it would probably cost at least $1,000, I would think.
Right.
But, I mean, that tree has much more value. There's
Right,
no
that's-
replacement cost, I mean, I don't know how you would estimate what that tree's value is, but it's, I think it creates quite a presence here in the center of town, and I would urge you guys to consider doing whatever we could to maintain that tree. Now having, I think there's a way that could be done in maybe a 2-year period. I don't think we necessarily need to treat the root system the first year, but it certainly wouldn't hurt. There was some construction that was done there some years back, and I think that probably didn't help. So, yeah.
Okay, and then you have the other item, which is the maple tree. Where's that one?
Okay, so there's two maples that we're talking about. Now, the first one, let's see, which one is first?
The sugar maple.
Sugar maple and then silver maple.
Yeah, okay. Well, actually, there's 3 maple issues.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first one is in front of the old library.
Oh,
Is that
on this side?
Yeah, and I don't know if it's actually a public tree or not.
Half of it's gone, or at least one big huge branch.
Yeah,
Many
but it's a hazard tree at this point. But it is a big tree. It's this
That
big
one
around. It's
branch
massive.
fell.
Yeah,
I was happy it fell this way.
right.
It could crush a house.
Yeah, but it's also it's a beautiful tree. It has potential, but they're proposing reducing some of the stress on the structure of that tree by doing some pruning to take some weight off of one part of it.
Yeah.
$450. But yeah, so the question is that
Yeah,
part of-
is that a question we probably should answer, huh? Whether it's actually,
does the town still own that building or
No.
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 It's private land.
I don't see how it would be town at all.
Okay,
Well, but it is a hazard. I mean,
but it's hazard on private property.
yeah, okay.
I guess. I mean, unless the whole thing came down into the street, but
Which is the direction it would go,
yes,
fortunately.
Yes.
Not towards the houses, but it would just hit a car.
yeah.
Hopefully just a parked one.
So that is a little bit of a dilemma when you have a really important tree that's not in the public right of way.
it was at
like-
one time, maybe.
Yeah.
It was
On
town
library
library.
land. Yeah.
Does the town approach the landowner and say, hey, we're willing to help you with the cost of maintaining this tree because we feel that it's a significant, the tree has got to be, 125 to 150 or more years old. It's been around a long time, seen a lot of things. It's a big old sugar maple.
4th of July parades.
What's that?
A lot of 4th of July parades.
Yeah.
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 And then the other two, are they across the street?
Yeah, so those were actually maybe trees that you might have talked
Yeah,
about.
we talked about
quite a
that,
while
yeah.
ago. Yeah, and I'd gotten a price from some other arborists, and it was relatively the same price. I think they wanted $675 or something, but it's a little bit more of a hazard issue. So these are two silver maples, just a couple doors up from Good Times on that side of the street, and there's quite a bit of dead wood in them. And branches are kind of falling on the
Those the
sidewalk
ones
and stuff.
The utility lines go through?
Yeah, you know, they're not great trees.
Yeah.
They're pretty good trees. I mean, we have a bunch of crappy trees downtown, I have to admit, in the public right away. Some of these other trees that are back on private land are nicer, but we're a little bit cursed by the decisions that were made in terms of what kind of trees were planted, and also the fact that there's this utility line that runs over and through them. So it's a tough one. But these trees are, they're up and over the utility line, but they really could use some help. So
just a sort of
$750.
question, what do we have in that budget line now for, I mean, I think it's scattered in a couple of places, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we made a capital line item for it last year, and we put in what did we do, 2,500 or something?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
1,500.
But
And then there's a line item in the Conservation Commission, in the general fund budget for trees, and
Is that still for just tree planting or?
tree planting.
Probably. If, so we did have the study a couple years ago, which, it's good to have.
The
And
inventory.
helps steer us.
Yeah.
Are these and so you're bringing this to us, are these the priority you would say, if we had $5,000, would we plant some more trees? Would we, or would we do this work?
I think we would do this work. I think certainly we would treat those big trees and some of this remedial type pruning, because that's just going to get worse. And there's one other tree here in front of the Mead's house that we wanted to do the same thing with. It sort of had some decline on it this summer. It wasn't looking so great, but it's another big maple tree. It's right across the street from us, and it would make sense to. We could probably wait another year, but it would be a priority in my mind. I mean, we're always looking for money to plant a few trees, and so I don't know if that is a good segue to talk about the ash trees within our urban forest here. But I on the map that I just gave you, you can see those are the ash trees that have been inventoried. So we have about 60 ash that are within the public right-of-way, within the sort of the village area. And that represents about 8% of the total trees that were inventoried in that process. There's something like 838 trees that have been inventoried that we now have mapped out. So yeah, roughly about 8% of our urban trees are ash. If you look at this other handout, and on the bottom chart, oh, is that on there?
I haven't seen it. Let me just, I can load it up here.
Sure.
Just a second.
Sorry. So anyway, the issue with all these other trees is, when are they going to die? And does it make sense to start taking some of them down before they die? The sort of general consensus is that it's cheaper to take the trees down while they're still alive. There's less danger. It's just. Now, having said that, a lot of our trees our ash trees aren't that huge, and this is what this chart is going to show you. The bottom chart, it says diameter distribution of the 5 most common genera. And so we're looking at the purple, which isn't really showing up very well, but
Fraxinus.
yeah, Fraxinus. But you can see in the 6 to 12 inch and 3 to 6 inch diameter size class,
majority of them,
that's where the
right.
bulk of them are. Once you get above, 12, well, there's a few 12 to 18s, but so like all the trees and the parking lot behind us, there's maybe 8 or 9 of them. Those would be in the 6 to 12, probably closer to the 12 inch. That'll give you an idea of what that size tree is. And you can see from that chart, there's over 30 of those in town, right? We got the number on the left, the vertical axis. So,
But you don't necessarily need a cherry picker and all that. I
right,
mean,
so those
somebody
aren't
can-
going to be a big deal
Yeah.
to take down. But the other thought is the sooner you replace them with something else, the sooner you're going to have trees that are going to, begin to have an impact on.
Can we plant them
On the
before we
space.
plant something else before we take those down?
I mean, you could, of course, that's going to make taking them down potentially a little bit more difficult, but
Well, I
put
mean,
those trees at risk.
just to keep the conversation moving.
Yeah.
It seems like, so we got a couple of things going.
Yep.
It seems like maybe that, if we had because we, like you said, they're going to die.
That seems to be what's going to happen.
What's
Yeah.
happening. Maybe this is a 2 or 3 year
Or longer.
thing where we put a little money aside and, a couple of $1,000 each year or whatever it might be. And so that, year 3, 4, or 5, you've got some money to, to address it.
Well, the other part, so there's two parts to that sort of future plan. One is tree removal, and the second is planting
Replacement,
trees.
yeah.
So the tree removal part, is that something that we can do in-house?
Maybe.
Some of them?
Well, certainly any of the ones that, there's no wires or,
Yeah.
this stuff, those could come down
Okay.
easily.
Yep. So that maybe just comes out of a budget that already exists.
Maybe. I mean,
Maybe.
it seems like we would want to come up, I think we could start the budgeting piece
Yeah.
because it is going to cost a little bit of money. So we could start that, but we don't necessarily have to take any action. Although, it would be good to look at which trees could come out
Yeah.
and, which ones would be the most costly
Right.
5 years from now. And so, we could do that.
So, Paul, if you have an idea of, what you would recommend of work that we should be doing in FY20, in addition to what you've talked about today, and also money that we should be continuing to put into that capital fund, because we are having these discussions with the budget, so it'd be
Okay.
a great time for me to give that feedback so that I can,
Okay.
the board can consider whatever amount and sort of listing out what your recommendations are.
Is there an advantage to, if we mobilize people to do this work, to do it all at one shot? Is there an advantage there, or if we
I
say,
think the negative impact would be greater. In other words, just the loss of trees and people freaking out.
oh
it's
yeah,
like-
no. So I'm thinking, moving it. If we said, let's do these things that are on that list, would they wouldn't all be done the same week because there's different activities.
Yeah, we're talking about the proposal, or
Yeah.
yeah,
Bartlett.
Yeah,
yeah. No, that would be done over various
it'd be
times.
scheduled accordingly.
Yeah, the pruning would probably happen in the winter, and then these
Yeah.
other, injection things would be spring and then summer. So yeah.
So I mean, we won't make a decision on it.
Well, I'd like to make a decision, for the injections, it seems like that has to happen between now and July. Before we have a new budget.
Next spring.
Right,
Yeah, it
next
would want to
spring.
happen
So
ideally in the spring.
I think that certainly we should, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the budget for the treatment of the 2 large ash trees for a total of, let's see, somebody add with the,
1,400, I think that comes.
well,
to.
the 350 for the soil care and
Oh, you're
fertilization.
talking about
Yeah.
doing that as well.
And-
Compare the 2 ash trees.
Yeah, for the, plus the 725. Plus the 650. And plus the 1,200.
Right.
That would just be addressing the ash trees. Did somebody add those up?
18,225, I'm not sure, I just did this.
1725 plus 1,200.
What was that?
Almost $3,000.
Yeah,
So I make a motion that we
2,900 or something, yeah.
9.
spend that.
What was the amount?
2,900?
Actual.
29.25, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right, 29.25.
$29.25. So that's a motion.
Did we say we had money in that line?
No.
Or it's-
That was gonna be for the discussion, I think.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'll second it for the discussion.
Okay,
Sure. I
so
mean, I'm
the
not
motion
against
to treat the
idea.
ash trees according to the proposal we have.
Yeah.
It's around 2,900, and it's seconded by Aaron. So discussion.
Yeah, so
So-
the discussion revolves around like,
Is there money in the budget?
yeah, $3,000.
I don't think there is. I think we used a fair amount of the budget to plant trees this year, because that's why you had proposed it for FY19. So I don't think we have much left anyway. I'd have to look. I don't have the numbers in front of me.
Well,
So if we don't have the money to do it, do we have any amount of money to do it? Or you're saying it's a zero?
well, we don't have any money in the tree budget.
Right.
Right, but I mean, I'm saying like anywhere, I'm talking about.
Well,
That's kind of like, I mean, that would, well, it's a little vague. So
we don't have
something
a
more.
specific line that has the funds needed for this, but we
Right.
do have.
Right, I mean, I'm not,
Funds
I'm not
available.
suggesting we just randomly take money from some other place arbitrarily, but something that makes sense that fulfills what we're trying to accomplish, which, you know, in particular, like this tree out here. I mean, I'm certainly in favor of doing something to make sure that that tree stays healthy as long as it can. But at the expense of what, I guess, is what the conversation is.
So I'd have to look and see what we have left that have specific purpose with trees, like in the Conservation Commission line
Right.
for
Yeah.
tree maintenance, as well as the capital fund that we'd set up, and see what funds we still have available. So I don't have that
Tree cutting
information.
in the highway budget potentially could come
Yeah.
out of that.
I mean, that's the kind of thinking
Right.
Yeah.
I'm asking.
So I just have to take a look to see. It's not a figure that I can give you
Sure.
offhand right
I
now.
don't think you're
Yeah.
prepared to.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I would think the same thing. Let's, you know, rather than vote on it tonight, in my thought is sort of, let's find out what we have available. If it's not quite enough, maybe you talk with Paul and see if, you know, you're able to come up with, is there something that's worthwhile? Not to, I wouldn't want to move forward if it's not worthwhile just doing a piece of it. But then the other piece I would say is, you know, next year's budget's not that far away. And, you know, having Paul here and having this study says there's a number of things that we should be doing proactively. And maybe it's time to start budgeting, you know, $5,000 a year as an example.
That would help. for
And
sure.
then we can just, you know, continue to maintain these trees that we've spent a lot of money on to put them in, a lot of
Well,
the
we didn't
newer
really,
ones.
but
Well, we
Well,
got
we've been
grants
doing
for
it for
some
the
of
last-
them, and,
yeah,
and,
Yeah.
you
but
know, we
There's a lot of effort in there
Yes.
yeah,
to do that.
I
And,
won't deny that.
and so,
yeah,
Paul, let me
Yeah.
ask you a quick question.
Sure.
How effective is the insecticide on these trees?
99%
It is.
for this
And how long
emerald
does it
ash
take to
borer.
work its way up through?
That would depend on the size of the tree and how vigorous it's growing. A tree that's, you know, healthy is going to move the material faster. I don't know exactly though, you know, I can't really say, but I would suspect, you know, it's probably toxic to insects, I would think within a week or less.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it moves along pretty quickly.
It's effective is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting material. It's derived from a fungus.
okay,
And,
so it's a,
yeah,
it's
it's not to say that it's not toxic.
Right.
Okay, so
Yeah.
but
Is it toxic to other insects?
yeah,
yeah, what does our UVM entomologists department say about treating this?
This seems to be I don't know, I wouldn't call it a silver bullet, but it's the thing that's used the most for this particular pest. So,
Because we do have,
I know.
you know, Bruce here,
Right.
Bruce Parker, who works there. He's been there for 150 years.
right, I know, it's true,
Natural
yeah.
and does, you know,
tree.
integrated pest management, so not just pesticides, but, you
Yeah.
know, looked at the whole thing.
Yeah.
That would be interesting, just get an opinion. So I would be okay with, you know, finding out how much we have and certainly looking at budgeting going forward.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, just to finish this proposal is another $2,000. So even if we just did what you guys approved, we'd still have another 2,000 just to do
Just to
this.
do those things.
And then
Yeah.
you need to be thinking about
Right.
budgeting for tree removal and also replacing
And ongoing
some of the
maintenance.
trees, yeah. Because the trees that, you know, like looking at the map, you can see they're clustered
Yeah.
in places. Like a good example, in addition to behind us here, but another good example would be across from the post office on
Yeah.
Mechanicsville Road. There's a whole row of ash on
Yeah.
both sides of the road. So if all those trees go, that's going to make a pretty good impact. The other place is the elementary school. There's a bunch of them there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So, and then also in Farmall Drive,
yeah, it's a cluster.
which is, you know, will freak people out when you come in and start cutting down their trees when they're perfectly healthy. So there has to be a little bit of
Conversation.
So
conversation
is
about
the
that.
reason to cut them to prevent the spread of the borer, or just to
No,
make sure that they don't become dangerous?
Yeah, it's just depending on the tree. Typically, it's going to be cheaper to cut down a tree that's alive. A small tree, it's not going to matter, but something that you have to climb. Once you start to get, you know, dead branches and stuff, then it becomes a lot more of a
Some of these
challenge.
smaller ones, does it pay to try to cut them now, or just wait and see what happens and hope for the best?
It probably makes sense to wait on the smaller ones, except for the fact that, you know, if it's 5 years before they die, or 10 years, now you've got a much bigger tree, and the impact of the loss of that tree is going to be greater. So in some ways, it maybe it's better just to cut your losses now and get something else growing in there so that it's going to do what it is we want the trees to do in the first place, right? So, because we are planting trees for posterity,
Right.
right?
So you didn't
So we-
end up making the motion?
No, we do have a motion.
We have a
It's,
motion.
it's there
Okay.
to
I
take
can withdraw the
two,
motion.
the two elm trees. So
Right, but
that'd
we
be
don't
up to
have
you.
we don't know where the money's coming from
Right,
yet.
We could table it.
All right.
Yeah, I think that would be reasonable. Let's
can-
find out.
Okay.
I mean, I think the board, Marilee hasn't weighed in, but I think the board would like to, you know, these two elm trees are the ones, ash, sorry. Elms are already, the two ash trees are, you know, probably the real kings of the street in a way, these, so,
Yeah, I mean, the other
The
big
one
trees
over
that
there.
are across the street from us,
Yeah.
these maples here, we
Yeah.
want to prioritize those too.
okay.
Those are probably, you know, if there were 5 important trees, the most important trees, they would be part of that group
Okay.
as well. So keep that in mind.
So if you're willing to table it for
Until next meeting.
next meeting.
But I mean, I
December
can,
3rd.
yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
I
absolutely.
came in late.
Hey, Digger.
Is one of those trees
Yes.
behind
Yes.
us on the green?
Yes.
That
Yeah.
tree's had a lot of care over the years, I see,
Yeah.
with the rods
Yeah, it's
through
had
it
some
and,
money
yeah.
spent on it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we want to, you know, protect them. We just want to say,
We
do we
want to
have the
protect
money?
his investment too.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
other major thing here, because that thing falls, it's going to come right down on your building. No, I'm kidding.
And then I
Probably
think,
isn't.
so we'll consider next
At the
next
December
meeting.
3rd meeting.
You don't have to come for that,
Yeah,
Paul,
no, I
necessarily.
won't.
But I think if you do put some numbers together for this budget, so we can vote on it in March, of what we can then be spending
Yeah.
next year, both on an
For
operational bed.
2020.
That would
Yeah.
be helpful if you have
Yeah,
that
we
information.
need that, and both for operational and then capital, so that every year we're putting some in for replacement costs. Or
Right.
additions and replacement.
And Paul, while I've got you here, I'm just going to
Yeah.
bring this up because we were discussing it the other day with the snow. Some spots around town, especially Creekside, very difficult to plow with that machine with some of the trees.
Okay. Almost all those trees were pruned late winter and spring. They got limbed up.
I haven't been through
yeah.
this. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Circle that.
Yep.
So,
But if
I just
there's
wanted to
something
bring it
else
up.
that comes up, let me know. Send me an
Yeah.
email or something.
yeah.
Any
I'll
other
have to- I'll
places?
tell-
Them all waiting, we'll make, take it away.
Well, it was a big spot in front of what we got cleared out over here.
Yeah.
The new owners, the Akinda's old house.
Oh, yes,
Yeah, this
yes,
way.
yes,
That
yes,
was-
yeah.
I don't really know off the top of my head, but with something I was talking about with John the other day.
Yeah, but Creekside had a major
Okay.
limb
Yeah, it looks-
elevation pruning,
Okay.
it's called, when you're taking the lower limbs
Right,
off
yeah.
for clearance.
Okay, good. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. That was done pretty much all by Marie Ambusk,
Yeah.
and just volunteer. She did a huge
Oh,
amount
good.
of work. And then we had the town guys came
road
and
Out of the way.
Or
Picked
the
up-
water department?
Yeah.
Combination.
picked up the limbs, and I don't know if they chipped them or where they went, but anyway. Okay.
All right.
So when you get those budget numbers, you can send them to me.
So
And
we officially tabled it, is that what we did?
yes,
Yep.
for
Till
December
then, Yeah,
3rd.
we'll find out how much money we have available.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll be close and not feel so guilty.
All right.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
Yep.
Next item on the agenda
Do we want
is,
to move that and to the Black, since we don't have anyone from BlackRock?
okay, we can do that. Sure, yeah.
I don't think he had.
Because he's here for the Lake Iroquois.
Oh, okay. And then the car charging.
Oh, no, I was thinking, all right, yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
I get it.
yeah. I
Aaron
do- that was
says,
just-
let's do it.
Did you bring any pizza today? I don't think so.
I get it.
Okay, so the suggestion is to jump ahead
To the car charging.
past item 5, which is the water wastewater allocation, into item 6, the grant application for the charging station. Any issues with that?
Changing the agenda?
Yeah.
Just,
No,
just,
no,
just,
yeah, no, no.
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what we
okay.
have here.
Yeah.
All right, so
Talk
we're
that
going to
to
jump to item 6, the electric car charging station. We discussed it, I think, at our last meeting. I think we have the application put together. There's been some discussion, I think, with the police chief and the fire chief, which we have in our packet. And Richard Fazy's here to request we move forward with this, and there's a deadline of the 30th?
We are waiting for the ANR site assessment, which is a required piece of this.
Well, that's why it's
we're on-
blank in the
Right,
application,
so
the
we're,
date.
right, so we're on his schedule, and he's got a lot of these he's doing. So that's the last piece that needs to go in here.
Okay, did you go ahead?
Yeah, so it sounded like, or in your email with the chief, that you're actually moving the site a little bit to the west,
Right,
so not right by the flagpole.
right.
So
Yeah,
that-
so the
okay.
thought, the suggestion was, so there, east to west, there's a open parking spot, and then there's the ADA spot, and then next to it is the hashed section for additional space to get out of the ADA spot, and then there's the rest of the police station spot. So the thinking is, they wanted more, wanted more space, there it is there, so more for the snow.
Yep.
And the 18-foot cords could potentially serve, well, this way too, there are 2 spots that could be served with the charging station, and it could potentially reach the ADA spot as well, and still be within proximity. So I noticed today too, with the snow there, there's the pass-through sort of goes through that hash spot where they must drive between the fire
The site,
lot
yeah.
and the police lot.
Because that was a concern, I think, of the fire chief, but I think you had said, well, you just pass a little higher up.
Right.
Where's the slot that they pass
Yeah,
through?
they seem to go through where the hash spot. I just
Yeah.
noticed it now as I was coming out, but it depends. Where
And
they pile the
eventually,
snow.
there's supposed to be a sidewalk there anyways, although,
And eventually,
Right.
the fire department's supposed to do some landscaping.
Well, I think they're concerned about, they want to move the station anyhow, so there's a question about how much they want to put into the,
Yeah,
into
well,
it, but
well,
that's
it's been-
a different issue,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
So I looked at the application. I'm in favor of moving forward. There were a couple things. One, check mark in the application for the designated growth center. So we are not officially designated, and so that, I don't know, probably should be addressed somehow.
Or reapplying.
Or you could write next to it in application or something.
That was my understanding, is that it's in the
Yes.
process,
Well,
but,
won't
And we
be
have
till
been,
January,
too.
February, probably February or so before,
okay.
likely.
Application pending.
said, we were, and then
Yeah.
we forgot.
Well, I'm not quite sure of the process here too, because it seems like it will be submitted by the town on your behalf, so
Okay.
I'm happy to take it and make
Yeah,
edits
yeah.
to it, but at some point it sort of gets handed over, and because there's some signature
Right,
spots on here
right,
as
so
well
we're gonna have
too.
to sign it. So I think we'll have to address that somehow. Maybe we can put something alongside it, sort of saying, we'll,
Uncheck
By
it.
the time this gets, see, if it's not checked, then we don't meet the criteria.
okay. So
So,
we'll put.
Because
we'll
there are no
check it,
other,
we'll
there were
put
no
something
other,
there.
I believe, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but we didn't see that,
No.
that we meet any other designations there.
When is the next grant? I mean, when would be the next date besides November 30th? What would be the
I
next?
think it's next spring. It depends how much money that goes out of the first round.
Because next spring, we would technically could potentially have the village designation.
So we could note that it's in process, and by the time this is
Yeah,
awarded,
just
we will
put
be
in
a
process.
growth center.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems reasonable. Then the other, the date wasn't in there for the A&R, so we're working on that.
We're working on that, yeah.
Hopefully he'll give us a date, yeah, before then. And then I thought in that when the installation happens, are you guys going to manage that? Sort of needs to be a report or some pictures taken and
Sure, we can
say-
do that if that's,
I think that would be helpful.
yeah,
Yeah.
be happy to do that.
And is this charging station owned by the town once it's installed?
Yes.
And so we'd be responsible for any maintenance on it or
There is a
5-year.
5-year warranty as part of it, but after that period of time, yes, it would be the town's. It would be the town's responsibility. There's also some decisions about how much to charge too,
Yeah, that's
and
my
I think
next
that comes
question.
back to you.
That's my next question is this something that certainly pays for itself, I would think, or maybe it doesn't, I don't know. And then alternatively, is it something that we can make money on to put away to replace in 5 years?
Potentially,
In
yeah.
theory, if it's used,
Yeah, I'm making the assumption that it's used.
right?
Yeah.
So
Because that was another question, I just kind of went
we
with
just,
that
I mean, we
assumption.
don't really know.
Yeah.
We do see electric cars periodically parked around, but I don't know how much it's going to be used. I mean, I plan to have an electric car the next time I need
buy a
one.
car,
So next time. But
So you spoke to the village designation lapse and the community impact piece. You said Hinesburg is currently reseeking village center designation after a lapse in 2016.
Yeah, so that,
So it
So maybe that
is,
covers
we could
that.
have the check mark there and put a little reference,
Yes, see,
community impact. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it
notation.
would be all right there. So, yeah, I think there is an unknown, but, I mean, the town can, charge for use to, basically cover the electricity and potentially have more. I think a lot of these, it's just like you swipe and there's like a set price, $1.50 or a
no,
buck
I
or
don't
whatever
really
it
know how
is.
it's set up. But,
Yeah. And,
But
And
we
I
could add a
imagine
little
that-
bit, I mean, it.
you could add a little
little
bit.
bit so that
yeah.
we put it in for
Yeah.
replacement or maintenance.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you say, it's really a trial, right? I mean, everybody's seeing how these work
Right.
in a way,
Yeah.
and hence the reason they're doing this grant program.
I
To
see
sort of
people using them
seed
at like at
Shopping
Red Hen.
centers.
bakery. There's
Yeah, I've
always,
seen one
usually
there, too.
always somebody plugged in there.
There's a couple of different styles there too.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they're,
Level 1, 2,
Yeah.
3.
yeah.
So,
Let me get it.
So, the email that you had sent to us and included the chief on, and then the fire chief had questions, the 7, and then you answered. Question for us on the board, did we get a sense, and maybe he's listening right now, that this works?
I
For
have
him?
I have not heard back since I responded.
Yeah,
This was just last week as well too, but
yeah,
so I can't.
I mean, I get that it impacts this area,
Yeah,
there's
that's-
parking and,
Yeah.
and fair enough.
yeah, that's, I kind of make sure, not,
There didn't seem to be any showstoppers, like concerned about the hazard, and they're backing these big trucks up, and so yeah, anything that's in the way, I would be worried too.
Right.
So it's sort of a balance there.
I thought the police chief's suggestion about the signage was a good one.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't take up a spot if somebody's
Yeah.
just going to be there for
7 o'clock
15
at night, and they're having a
minutes or-
meeting there, and they're packed, or
Right.
some kind of emergency.
and there's nobody using the spot
Yeah.
then. I think that's perfectly reasonable.
So, I guess if we want to move this forward, we'd want to make a motion.
I'll make a motion for the chair, town administrator, to sign and submit the application.
With the modifications we discussed.
So because it's a fillable PDF, I'm not able to add that little notation about C, the other portion down on the village
Right,
designation.
in that spot.
So I don't know if we just write it in and, but it should be submitted electronically, it looks like how it's set up, right?
Yes, that's my
You
understanding.
could, I'd put a little note down at that other section, unable to put an asterisk next to, right. So we got ourselves covered. I mean, I'll second the motion to move forward. Mary Lee, any comments?
Nope, but I'm in favor.
Any more discussion?
no, I think I'm okay with this, and I would say, I would still, assuming that this goes through, it would be great to expand this if there's the, demand for it. And the next place to look at would be right here,
Yeah, I think so too,
in this
yeah.
commuter lot.
Well, we should keep an eye on it for how much of the funds get depleted in the first round and
Yeah,
submit again.
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Anything else? All right, so all those in favor of the motion to move forward with the slight changes to the application? I think the town administrator has to sign.
Yeah, and everyone has to
Oh,
sign, we have to do
everybody
a
has to sign.
resolution.
Yeah, oh, that's
There's a
right.
okay.
resolution
Yeah.
that we need to do. I'll pull that up and. on the
So
grant
all those in
application.
favor say aye?
Aye.
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 Aye. And, yeah, there is a resolution.
Yeah, so you'll wanna have a
Need a
resolution.
motion to
Approve the resolution.
move forward with the resolution.
I'll make that motion.
Page
All right,
20.
it's seconded. It was pretty straightforward.
Use page 20, Renee.
20?
Well, that's my,
Looks like it's, let's see. There we go, yep.
Right, I gotta go up a little more. There we go. I had looked it over.
All right. Whereas, right here.
Whereas the municipality of Hinesburg is applying for funding as provided in the fiscal year of 2019 Budget Act and may receive an award of funds under said provisions. And whereas the Department of Housing and Community Development may offer a grant agreement to the municipality for said funding. And whereas the municipality has voted at an annual or special meeting to provide local funds for an electric vehicle charging station. That's our 10% match. Therefore, be it resolved that the legislative body of this municipality of Hinesburg is applying for funding as provided for in, where am I?
Yep, right
Oh,
here.
all right.
That
That
this
the
municipality
legislative body
enters into.
And agrees to the requirements and obligations of this grant program, including a commitment to match funds of 10%
10%.
of the total project cost. And you got Joe, needs to sign that too?
Yeah, so Joy.
What is the total project cost? I forgot.
$20,000,
Yeah, about 20,000.
just about 20,000
And the 2,000 can be in
in kind.
kind.
Well, we didn't. Says, whereas the municipality voted at an annual or
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up. too.
special meeting to provide local funds.
Well, I mean, I think we're voting now to provide those funds.
Oh, is that who it means?
I
Is
think
us?
so, yeah.
Oh,
I don't know. I'm
At
sorry.
an annual or special meeting.
This is a special meeting?
Yeah, that's
no,
what I
it's not our annual
This is our
meeting. I think it
regular.
means that we had to vote at town meeting.
Well, you think so? You don't think this is a meeting where the town can vote to
I mean, based on what
provide funds?
based on the November 30th deadline, I would suspect, and when did this come out? I would suspect that wouldn't be
2
a,
months ago?
yeah, so
Yeah.
it couldn't have been a town meeting.
Okay.
Every one of our select board meetings I consider special.
Also special.
Oh, we got fed tonight. That was special.
Yeah, really, yeah, this was, well,
I guess we could go ahead and do
Do it.
that and then confirm with them that,
Yeah.
that the
Yeah,
select board
that sounds
meeting
reasonable.
qualifies.
yeah.
So that's the resolution.
Well,
and
it
you
says
made
that the
motion.
Municipal Planning Commission recommends. Did they?
Has this gone, but do you know if Alex put this before the planning commission or?
I don't know.
So it, with Joe Iadanza's signature being required and this, the number 2 saying that the Municipal Planning Commission recommends, I would think that not only Joe would need to review this, that the Planning Commission would need to discuss it.
When do they meet?
They're the second and
Next
fourth.
week. Or, yeah. No,
Where are we at
2
now?
weeks.
So we could get that on their agenda.
I thought Alex had said that they talked about
Yeah,
it.
you
I
know
remember
what?
reading
Did he-
some
did he
memo
say-
up from him.
He supported it in 2 different emails.
Yes.
I don't know whether that was
I thought I remember hearing,
Who did Alex? or
Alex. Alex.
but I think he
28
referenced
days.
that he had talked about it with the Planning Commission. I thought that's what it said in his email to us.
I've got it here.
Does he or not?
Oh, he's just saying he's reviewed it and it looks good and it doesn't impact any of the town plans. But we probably should send it to them.
Yeah.
So I think we could approve the resolution with the stipulation that the planning commission also approves.
Yeah, they have to sign it, so.
So do they meet before the 30th?
28th.
Just before.
There's never a grant that you have plenty of time to get everybody. They just make the timing pretty difficult.
So should I do that through Alex or?
Yeah.
Yes, Alex would be the
Okay.
planning commission staff person.
So we do have a motion to approve the resolution pending planning commission approval.
Yeah.
Is there a second? Seconded by Aaron. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Great. Thank you. So I should
All
work
right.
with you, Renee, to wrap this up. Is that right? Is who?
So you'll want to have Alex work with the planning commission, to
Yeah.
send this to the planning commission to make sure that they approve it. And then Joe would need to sign.
And then I'll
The
be
select board
available.
members
Yeah, we'll need to
all
sign
need to
this.
We need to
sign.
sign this.
Yeah.
A
Okay.
lot of paperwork for an extension cord.
All right.
Oh,
So will you facilitate getting the select board's signature?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
I have that, I mean, I have the form right here.
We could sign it.
We could sign it, and then the
Scan.
planning commission would still need Joe Danza's signature. And then this could be scanned in.
Okay,
But yes, they could sign this part tonight.
okay,
Okay.
great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
All right, take care.
All right, I guess we could jump to item 7, Lake Iroquois Association Budget Request, and hold off on 5 for a little bit longer. And we got something in our packet, but it was the
Yeah,
last minute.
Chris just sent it prior, so it's in there.
Streetscape money available for,
Replacing trees? Sure. Through the urban and community forestry?
well,
I
and
don't,
also
I
your
don't mind
state,
sharing my cookies.
your state road.
Yeah,
I mean, we got some,
yeah.
so it's some,
I haven't, yeah. I
might be
think
something
I
we
just heard like they're getting inundated with
yeah, I bet,
requests, so.
What's this for?
but,
Well, state, more great money for street trees.
you know, that you could match, and
Yeah.
especially being a state road. We did through the village, and it was great money.
Is that the same grant that we used for the Memorial Park street trees? The Vermont Community Urban Development
Yeah,
Grant? Yeah.
Should be, just something to keep in mind.
Same grant we used to get these trees.
Yeah.
Same, I mean, we, pretty much all the trees
That,
And it seems like there's always money available, you know, so.
but now more towns
Yeah, more
compete for
towns
it.
are, asking, but,
Yeah.
you know,
Thanks for bringing it up
Try
while
to-
we're on camera.
thanks for having me again, tonight. Thanks, Renee, for,
Just introduce yourself. I
yeah,
think.
Chris Conan, Lake Iroquois Association. And for the benefit of the viewers, see, we have a new camera up in the
Yeah.
corner. And I come here representing Lake Iroquois Association as president. And just to give you a bit of history, we are just coming off from a denial of a state herbicide permit that we worked on for a period of time. And the state denied the herbicide use after almost 2 years of working on the permit process, and many different controversial discussions, but at the same time, I guess it's all educational, and so we're here to move forward. And we have a number of projects that we've been working on through the course of the year. And one being that we have just spent $20,000 this summer on hand pulling, DASH, which is diver assisted suction harvesting. And as you know, Lake Iroquois has a large infestation of milfoil, and we're about 70% of the lake is infested with milfoil now, and that's a big concern of ours. And so virtually with the state denying our permit opportunity for using sonar or fluoridone herbicide, it kind of leaves us to the mercy of only a few tools in the pouch right now. And one being hand pulling. One of the disadvantages of hand pulling is that you're also pulling all the native species and creating an imbalance in the ecological balance of the lake. And but our hands are tied with the amount of milfoil that we have in the lake, so we're using this as a way to move forward. You have blessed us with supporting our opportunities by various methods that we've been working with. Another project that we've been doing for the last 3 years is that we have a greeter program now that inspects all the boats that come into the lake on weekends. And that's a great program. We looked at over 1,000 boats this summer. And, you know, as wonderful as the summer was, the use of the lake this year was greater than it has been for a number of years, I would say. I am a 60-year resident on the lake. I've lived there my entire life. And so I feel very fortunate to be able to share with you that the beach during the last year was widely used by thousands of people, and it was great. We also saw a large influx of boaters this year: kayaks, canoes, sailboats, motorboats, both skiing and fishing. And you know, to be honest with you, the milfoil kind of kept itself at bay during the course of the year, and then all of a sudden, the 1st of July, it was like, or middle of July, 1st of August, it was like somebody turned a switch on, and it just took over. You know, it was crazy, and it was probably because of the amount of light that it was getting. You know, the plants tend to grow a little slower, and when there's plenty of light getting to them, and you know, water temperature was a little warmer this year, and so, you know, that might have also had an effect. But all of a sudden, August 1st was like, wow, somebody turned the switch on. So we worked 4 weeks with our contractor, the Dash contractor, and they spent 2 weeks in and around Rock Island and pulling there. We spent a week at the access area, the boat access area, and we also spent a week, almost a full week at the beach, and tried to increase the swim area there. We continue to look forward to that program, along with the greeter program this year. We would like to add an additional day a week with the greeter program. So if we inspected 1,000 boats this year, I really would like to say that, you know, we're going to inspect a third more boats. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday definitely is the day when people bring their boats in. And so we're hoping through grant funding and matching grants that we're going to be able to add an additional day. We have an amazing young man that is a resident of your community that works for us, Jim Johnson, and he runs the beach program, and he joined us working at the access area, managing the people at the access area. And Jim has been a resident of Williston all his life, drives bus for 29 years here at CBU, and does an amazing job with management of people. And so he's managing the LARD staff plus our staff, and he really has done an excellent job. And they're trained. They have to go through a training period, and he is really on top of them all the time. So it's great. We're really fortunate to have hooked up. We're working very, very closely with LARD board now, and that's a plus for us. We really feel that the hand-in-hand relationship that we've developed is really going to be important as we move forward. One of the things I got to tell you is that Hinesburg Fire Department has been, once again, gracious to fill our water tanks whenever we need. Seems like they're just all of a sudden they appear and pump water into our water tanks. And that really has made a huge difference. And we have communicated with them and made sure that they realize how important that program would have to be shelved if we didn't have them working with us. And so we really appreciate that very much. We're in the process of working on, we've just finished the Pine Shore Drive mitigation project where we had working with an ERP grant, and that grant allowed us to restructure the waterways tributary going down into the lake and reduce our sediment and that was working with the Youth Conservation Commission and using funds from various pools, various grant opportunities, $35,000 project, and we just completed that. And that project is going to make an incredible impact on our lake quality with phosphorus runoff and sediment runoff. We're looking forward to doing that in 3 or 4 other places around the lake in the next 2 years. And one being that we want to work with LARD, the town of Williston, and, the town of Williston. We've applied for a block grant, and through Chittenden County Regional Planning, and we have received a preliminary design grant that would allow us to restructure BB Lane. And if you're familiar with BB Lane gets traffic year round, obviously, but it's a really heavy used road during the summer season with cars coming to the beach, and it really is the recreation district behind us and behind the beach is heavily used year round, and so there's a lot of environmental problems with that road and a lot of problems with runoff and phosphorus problems. So we look forward to working with LARD and the town, and the residents of BB Lane are going to chime in and participate in matching funds there also. And that's going to be a great project, working with the Williston Public Works Department. We've been working with them for almost a year on this project.
Could I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
Would this be an opportunity to develop some kind of strategic plan for BB Lane?
Yep.
So that we really understand going forward what the maintenance, I mean, it'll be one thing to fix it, but then how are we going to prevent it from going back, and whether there should be some kind of memorandum of understanding
Absolutely.
between all the parties?
Between the towns,
Yeah.
And so between the towns, the residents, and the district, there's so
Yeah.
many parties that.
And there is to answer that question, Andrea, the block grant process requires that we come up with a 5-year plan.
Okay.
And that is, 5 years is pretty short. And we need, we've been looking for some kind of a motion of understanding to be able to just be able to manage that road. I mean, the town of Hinesburg and the town of Williston has done an amazing job,
Right.
but it doesn't come without controversy. And we understand that.
Right. And I think
so-
the thing is there's the physical maintenance, and then we need the legal structure of
exactly.
how it goes.
Yeah. So we are going to be working with that because, to be honest with you, Williston shares your same concern.
Yeah.
And and rightfully so. So we'll be working on that. We also have developing a 5-year plan with the Lake Iroquois milfoil mitigation.
Okay.
That we're working on too, and so it'll be incorporated in both of those projects. Will have a 5-year plan attached to it. I'm really looking forward to trying to work on, town of Hinesburg roads. I would say Demick Road, there's some tributaries there. Dynamite Hill is still a problem area that we need to work on. So at our last meeting, we really looked at how can we touch each of these roads? And what are we going to do? Because there's money available to be able to work on these roads. We should be working on these roads. And so that's our mission right now. So, Greeter program, I think, is going to be a great project, but it's not going to be the end all for our milfoil. We're still going to be putting out the benzoic barriers, both at the access area and at the beach. That that comes with a lot of time and energy from our volunteers.
Because they have to be pulled out.
Yep,
right?
they have to go in at a certain time, come out at a certain time. And so we were, unfortunately, the benthic barriers that we bought for the beach this year couldn't go in because of the fact that the state didn't grant us the permit until almost too late. And so it was 2 weeks to the end of the season. And so we just felt that we couldn't put them in and then pull them out. So, so we're working on continuing that program. And we got a lot going on.
Yeah. I mean, this, your memo here talks
Yeah.
about it, but you're really talking about, I mean, I haven't been involved with your group for more than, 8 years maybe.
Right.
And it seems like it's really matured and, you're, I'll say, attacking the environmental problems of the lake
Yeah.
from several different ways. I mean, the stormwater and the milfoil and, so I think it seems like it's really matured quite a bit. And
Phil,
getting funding from all kinds of sources too.
We are, yeah. And I have to say that we have been, and I use that lightly, we've been testing waters going into Lake Iroquois for 40 years, which is really amazing. And Marilee's been, part of it. It's been an amazing amount of time and energy. And you should see I will send a copy to Renee's office, the tributary, Lake Iroquois tributary report that we just finished. But it really has developed, and we're using it as a huge tool. And that tool is bringing us dollars, which is great. And we really, because of the efforts that have been put in place, we really have come a long ways. And but these efforts have been in place for almost 40 years, which is great. And we are seeing successes now with our phosphorus reduction, big time. So it's great. So to look at a general approach for our funding, we're looking at 3 different opportunities here. One, adding the additional day for the greeter program, which we generalize at like $2,500. We're also looking at adding the dash. That effort is endless. Tom, you and I both agree that it's a big. I don't know if it's as effective as what we spend our money on. I mean, it's a big nut. And I really wonder sometimes, is $20,000 worth spending on this? But it's our only tool at this point. So we're asking for help on that. And then just to help work on these projects where we're going to reduce phosphorus into the lake, and that is working on these tributaries. And we need matching money to be able to do that. And so my request is $7,500, if that's something that we can work towards. But at the same time, I appreciate the fact that any money is really worth the money that you. I still am a firm believer. It's our best community resource in Williston, Hinesburg, St. George, Richmond area. That recreation use is greater than it ever has been, and it will continue to be. We just have to make sure to protect it. That's all. So a lot of work. And we have an amazing board that works really hard. So.
And so I think at this point, we'll, put this as consideration for our budget discussions. We'll finish those by the end of January, if not before. This is helpful to get this in front. I think in some other times we've gotten it right at the last minute, so this is good to get it in front. I'll speak for myself. Just again, this organization seems to have really matured quite a bit in the last 10 years. the fact that you've talked about cooperating with the recreation district, that's been brought up, I think, by this board in the past. Are you working together? And so it does seem like it's all coming together. I don't know where the budget, it's up to the select board and where the budget ends up being. But, I will say, at a town meeting where people were asked to vote for the herbicide, they got support. So the town supports it. We could say how great a recreational resource it is, and it is.
Yeah.
But, and the town supports it too. So that would, I think, steer the board to say there's support for this and it is a resource.
One of the frustrating things that I find is that, and I'm not being critical on LARD because it's a great organization, but there's no capital plan, and the capital plan, and that's what we're working towards, working with them in strength. Numbers could come in strength, coming in front of these boards in strength, and working with them to come up with a capital plan. And capital plan is everything from the septic to roads to, we've done a lot of that project where we restructured the beach a couple years ago and, put in the drainage, proper drainage. Those are things that we can continue to move forward and do. And having, having worked with you guys and gals during that process is really huge. And I continue to support that. And I really look forward to one day, hopefully, Andrea is going to understand this, hopefully be able to see where the state steps up and works with us to be able to deal with this state water. It's state waters, and with the frustration that went along with the permit process for the herbicide, I still am frustrated. Our tools are narrow, our hands are tied, and I hope one day we can throw some leverage there. We're going to be working towards developing a stakeholders group that will hopefully include maybe a few of you, but also some legislators that are willing to listen to us and maybe help move that forward to get the state to realize that this is an important resource for us as communities. So,
Yeah, it's statewide.
yep,
Yeah.
statewide.
I just put I think it's Lake Iroquois Association has done a fantastic job, and reiterate the importance of capital planning. And for the Lake Iroquois Recreation District, I think we've been budgeting $500 for 40 years.
Yeah.
And I don't like to see the beach passes increasing. I think they're raising revenues with the beach passes, but I think if they would come forward with a capital plan and increase that budget with a portion of it going towards operations, but it's important that this resource stay available to everybody. And I don't like to see it happen by raising just the beach pass, so.
And it
If
does,
anybody from Lake Iroquois District Recreation District is listening,
Well, our representative on the district is also on the
yes,
Iroquois.
yes, so
Jeff
hopefully
Davis.
Jeff hears
Yeah,
that and
he's
can.
great. No, he
okay.
is very much involved in
Yeah.
what's going
Okay.
on, and we're really working hard. We have a capped septic system over there
Yeah,
that we pump every week.
yeah,
And I'm, every time I hear the trucks over there, and I'm thinking, oh my God, but it's necessary.
Yeah.
So, but and
better than it was.
we're not polluting. Yeah, better than it was. So.
but it is a resource that is available to everybody in this area, and it doesn't cost a lot of money.
Well, I
It's
don't know.
easy
I
to
think-
go to.
I don't, that's what I'm wondering, is I don't know how much the beach passes have increased.
Yeah, they're not much.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but,
They're,
Still,
and
you want
their reserve is dwindling,
yeah,
and that's not good.
no,
You
that's
know,
what they need to be
yeah,
building,
yeah.
yeah.
And Jeff realizes that. So we appreciate the fact that he's on both boards.
Yeah, and the district has become more than just the beach with all that other
It's
land that's been
amazing. It's
donated.
amazing.
So it is
Yeah.
a year-round
Yeah, it's
resource now.
recreational, yeah.
We're so fortunate to have it in our
Yeah.
community. So.
All right, has anybody else got questions for Chris?
Thank you again. for
Yeah,
the
I think
support.
if we have more questions as
Yeah,
budget time
at
comes
any
around,
time.
we'll reach out.
Yeah, and I'm more than
Okay.
willing to come forward
What
at any
always
time.
is helpful for us when we're doing the budget, because we always ask the question, well, geez, how much is,
Yeah, what
you know,
about-
what about the
what
other
about Lake
towns?
Iroquois
So,
Association?
well, no, it'd be, it's always good to know what the other towns
Yeah.
are being asked and
Yeah.
what they've provided to show,
Yeah.
hey, we're in this together, and that helps us,
And I
I
met with
think.
Williston 2 weeks ago, same presentation,
Yeah, okay,
actually.
all right,
So,
great, thank you.
Oh,
Thanks a
happy
lot.
Thanksgiving to everybody.
Yes, you too.
Much appreciated.
Okay. Yeah, it is good to get that request early in the budget.
Yes.
Yeah, it seems odd.
I've reached out to all the boards
Oh,
and
good,
committees
yeah,
now.
yeah, say, hey, yeah, come early. So the next item, we might as well jump into the BlackRock.
First come, first served. They all
Yeah, right. And this is considering the water wastewater allocation request from BlackRock for Phase 1A. We've had, I don't know, 5 maybe. This has been on the agenda 5 times. I think we're getting closer. The last time we said, what would the motion sound like? That would potentially provide the allocation with the conditions that within that allocation request are conditions to ensure the, I guess, 15 sites for affordability and the ADA. And I think we've got the motions,
Yeah.
potential motions.
There's a motion,
actually
but you
have some.
also, as Alex noted in his email, the allocation pool designation.
Yes, so we'd have to
have the
do,
right
if we
split
were gonna move
currently.
forward, we have to do, I have it written down here somewhere. We'd have to do 2 things. We first would have to adjust our allocations, the remaining allocations for fiscal year 19 from, in category 3, and then potentially allocate the water and wastewater. Any discussion? So the motion, I think, would be, we have the wording here somewhere.
Right, and it's in front of you, it's up on the screen too.
Oh, okay.
Closer.
Yep.
So we have to amend the categories first?
First, we would
First,
have
you
to
need
do
to do
that,
that.
yes.
Those are,
So category 3, let me see here. We would change category 3, the residential. I suggested we change it from 50/40 to 92/55 for residential. And wait a minute, let me make sure. To 9,500 for no, let me, wait. I wrote these all down. I want to make sure I get them right. Yep. So there's 9864 in category 3 right now. All we have to do, if we were to move forward, is to rebalance the residential and the enterprise. Take a lot out of the enterprise, put it to the residential. So, for example, if we change the residential from 50/40 to 9,500, and then therefore the remainder in the enterprise from 4824 to 364, then when we allocate what goes to BlackRock, we would allocate 9255 from the residential and 344 from the enterprise.
324. 324.
324? Ruh-roh. 324. Then that would, what did I say, 44? That would put 40 here. That would leave 245 in residential and 40 in enterprise. Which, it doesn't really, it's only going to leave a little bit left in category 3, no matter how we balance the 2 sides. So if we made that change, then we could move forward with the BlackRock allocation. And we knew we would need to make that change.
Right, that was discussed all.
And then when BlackRock, when the new well comes online, they will automatically get 30% of whatever that is, and so it won't go into the allocation pool? How's that gonna work? Can you
Go into
refresh
the
my
allocation
memory?
pool and it's-
So I think what you're saying, does some of that get applied to this allocation? Is
Yeah.
that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I would think it would. Because this was done prior to any allocation, that agreement.
Right. But the way the agreement is written, they automatically get 30% of that,
The production.
of the production.
Right.
So we,
Or another number,
or
whichever
something
is
that's
less.
less.
Right.
Yeah.
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 So what you're saying, I think, which is a good point, now that I get what you're saying, is that was made, that agreement was signed
Yeah.
prior to any allocation being made. So you could argue that this allocation going in for water, which is 90, well, that's only for that category. What's the total allocation for water?
The total allocation for water is,
It's these three numbers
yeah,
together.
those three added up, yeah.
Yeah.
So, which is 16.
Do we have that agreement handy or?
I can go grab it upstairs. You have in this email.
I
Yeah,
sent
we
it
have here.
section.
Yeah.
This,
So the allocation, consideration, and dedication of the water supply well, the town acknowledges and agrees that its allocation of 30% of the estimated state permitted yield of the well, or 36,000 gallons per day, whichever is less, satisfies the water allocation requirements of the wastewater ordinance, okay, to support BlackRock's future application to the Selectboard for a wastewater allocation for the project. For the purposes of this application, yeah, it basically says that they would get that 30% or
3,600 gallons.
36,000 gallons.
Yeah, whichever
Whichever
is
is
less. So, this is only for phase one.
Phase 1A.
Phase 1A, yeah. So when they come back in for more, they don't have, I mean, and
There isn't more now.
there isn't more now, but they won't even come and ask us for more when the new well comes online. Because they're already going to be guaranteed that amount, right?
Well, they would, so that's the question. I don't know. That's a good question. So would we, no, I don't think we would consider this as part of that.
No, because it references the estimated permitted yield of the new well.
Because this allocation,
Well, we didn't.
this water was, although it's grown,
Water we have.
yeah, it's grown since that
Agreement.
agreement. The amount that's available has grown. So
So
the
I guess my question
yeah.
is how does this allocation relate to the agreement?
Isn't the agreement though only relevant to the new well and what the amount?
Yes, but the agreement was made on the premise that we didn't have any water,
Right, we had
Right?
almost none.
Almost
Not
none.
an extra, you're right.
right?
Yeah.
And so now we do have some, but but if we give them this and we honor that agreement, then for the rest of their phase, I mean, maybe that's okay, but it seems like there's a little bit of a, yeah,
It's changed.
it's
since then.
changed. It's changed, yeah.
I don't know, I think the bottom line is, this is one hand washing the other. because we've been looking for another water source for several years. And this prime source, it appears, happened to be on their property. They're, whatever the agreement is, they've also taken that chunk of property out of any construction they could do on it. So I think it's a viable agreement.
I think that was a viable agreement. What I have a hard time with on this is that we've jumped through hoops to figure out a way to give them what they need, because is it a special project, okay? So it's only a special project because we've gotten them to agree to doing 10 additional affordable units.
Right.
And I want to ensure that those happen. And otherwise, I feel like, we are basically taking water away from another potential project, special project.
So that motion language.
Yes, that's why I'm very
do that.
confident, and
Right.
I agree that we need senior housing. I think the housing needs assessment demonstrates that really the population that we want needs to be supported is people who won't be able to afford these units. But at least there'll be 10 that will be affordable. So I guess moving forward, when this well comes online, they won't be coming and asking us for an allocation. So are we not getting allocation
I think
fees?
they have to ask us for the allocation, but that they get dibs on 30% or 36,000 gallons. So I don't think
Yeah, I
that
think
this
they
gives
have
them
to
the
follow
allocation.
The same process
Yeah.
everyone else does.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
But meanwhile, they will have gotten
This other one.
This other one
Which,
as well.
I mean, I
Yeah,
think
okay.
Tom's saying, hey, they follow the process and we have the allocation and we've said, hey, there's some hoops here. You want to use this special category. Well, and for me, I'll speak for myself. I think they've satisfied it to the best that seems reasonable. And so then you bring up the question, oh, wait, are they sort of double dipping? Well, for a second, I thought maybe, but I'm not quite sure.
okay.
Any other thoughts, Marilee?
No, it is confusing. I'm trying hard to follow it.
Okay. So I think if we wanted to move forward, we would first have to change category 3 of the allocation for fiscal year 19, right? And I propose to just check those numbers, that we change residential from 5040 to 9,500, and enterprise from 4824 to 364. So both of those combined come up to 9864. So the amount in category 3 stays the same, 9864. They're just allocated a little differently. So that would be the motion.
I'll second it for you, Phil. I'll assume your math is correct.
Does that seem?
So for category 3, residential will be, the new number will be 9,500.
Yep.
And enterprise will be 364.
Yes.
So we'll get this information to Eric if you guys do approve this motion.
So that's all we would need to change as far as allocation within that category 3. Any other discussion?
Yes, so is there clarity what happens when BlackRock's well comes online?
Well, the agreement we have with them, that is now at least a year old, they would get 30%, potentially they can ask for 30% of that allocation, and they would get it, or 36,000 gallons, whichever is the smallest.
And so that's in addition to what we're giving them now.
Potentially, yes. Yes.
That would be their water. They still have to come back and ask for wastewater.
Okay, yeah, that was also a question. Thank you.
All right, any other questions? All those in favor of adjusting the water allocations for fiscal year 19 as noted, say aye.
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 Aye. So now we have the categories right. BlackRock is asking for the allocating the water as noted in that letter, 7242 gallons per day from category 1, 9255 from category 3 residential, and 324 from category 3 enterprise. Let me just check my numbers here. And the only reason is that
And then it means we have 0.
no, we put 364 in
Oh,
there.
so we have 40.
Yeah, so we have 40 left, right? Which, we knew we were going to empty these with this, primarily empty them. So that would leave a very small delta in category 3 of 265. So that would be so in the motion, it's that amount for the water. Wastewater is 7110 in category 1, 5460, category 3 residential, and 288, category 3 enterprise.
You want to read that bottom paragraph, Phil?
Yeah.
If this is
Yes,
part of your motion?
might as well, yep. And further, that the category 1 allocations, which are for special, is that what that's,
It's
the term is
Municipal, educational, institutional, special projects.
I'll call it special projects,
Okay.
shall be null and void if the project does not provide their perpetually affordable dwelling units as proposed by the applicant and consistent with the inclusionary zoning provisions of section 5.21 of the zoning regulations. Specifically, these affordable dwelling units shall include a minimum of 5 two-bedroom dwelling units in Building B and 10 senior housing dwelling units, those for 55 and older, in Building H of their proposed development.
I'll second it.
So that would be a condition they're going to go to the DRB with. We also did have something on ADA compliant. I think there were 5 units that were going to be ADA compliant. We could put that in there or not. I think they were going to do that anyways.
You want to put it in?
was they already required on that piece? Was that?
I'm not sure. They said all the units were going to be laid out for ADA, but then there were a number, I thought it was 5, were going to be set up with all of the features. So I wouldn't mind putting that in there. I think that's important, and I'll add to that 5 of the senior housing units are set up for the ADA, fully ADA compliant.
Do you,
Yeah,
Did you
the
get that,
friendly.
Al?
friendly amendment?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thanks. So it's taken us, we've probably started this in September, and they've been working on it for a long time. I think it's hard for me to sort of allocate all the water we have, but then again, a year ago, we didn't have this water. And I expect once they build this in 2 or 3 years, and we will recover some of that water, because we know they don't tend to use that much, and we feel pretty confident we have the water because the infrastructure's
And the
been
water that we
repaired.
allocate is going towards a town, very much needed town goal.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
think it
very
was,
good purpose.
and the development, while we can't finish out the development, it is incrementally being developed in a phased manner that seems appropriate.
Yeah.
and the town infrastructure is in a position to accept more development without a lot more tax
And more users are coming online.
and more users,
Seeing
right?
users, more customers.
Any other comments? All those in favor of that motion for the water and wastewater allocation, say aye.
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 Aye. So that motion's passed.
If you look on his category splits from his, I think the October 1st meeting, had the current request for Phase 1A, and then Phase 1B is reflected from the well agreement.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, the next item on the agenda is review December and January Select Board meeting schedule.
Every Monday,
I
right?
think the last time we had said, let's schedule every Monday. I mean, you know,
Yes.
reasonable, but.
Right, yeah, so I just wanted to confirm, make sure everybody's, because I've notified
3,
VCAM
10,
that that is
17.
the plan, and that's usually our process every year for budget season is December and January, expect to meet every Monday outside of the holiday.
And then off
times.
the 24th and 31st, correct?
You guys don't wanna come?
Well,
Come on,
I'm in town.
what is the matter with people? So,
It's feeling
yeah,
a lot
we would just
like
have
budget
technical-
time.
Are we meeting on
Special
November
time of the year.
26th?
Yeah. Are we meeting on the 26th? That's my question too.
we don't have that scheduled, no.
That's
but are
this
we
month,
talk-
you mean?
No,
Yeah,
we're
are we
just
talking
talking
about
about
that?
December.
We're just talking
Yeah.
about December.
3rd, 10th, and 17th.
3, 10, and
And then
17th.
the January meetings, which I don't have those written down at the moment, but all of the Mondays in January. So I think
And
it's
by
like
the
the third.
by the 3rd January, we're gonna be having to nail down the warning.
Yes, yeah. So I have that mapped out in your budget process schedule that you've seen in earlier packets of when we need to finalize that.
Is that like the 7th, the 14th, the
Yeah.
21st?
You'll have to have a capital budget. You'll have to do the public hearing for that, to the capital improvement plan, to have that approved. That's at annual basis, like we did last year. And then finalizing the budget at the next meeting, likely the 28th, I believe, January.
That'll be the deadline.
Yeah, so the 7th, 14th, 21st, and 28th of January. Yeah. Yep.
And I imagine you'll deflect anything that's not critical. There'll be
Right.
things we'll have to do, but anything
Yeah.
that's not critical.
Yeah, so this is gonna be where the times where I'm gonna have to start turning people away for different things, because we really do need to have the focus and energy on the budget. And so next week, is when we're gonna be scheduling those meetings, so if you haven't reached out to your department heads, I've been trying to get, times from them and encourage them to send me 3 dates and times, and also to include early mornings and late afternoon, early evenings on those to make it so that will be doable, so it's not impacting your work schedules too. But if you could let me know what your availability is next week too, so that I can kind of line those up. And what I may do is just email the department head, copy you, whichever select board member is, as we try to schedule those times.
So if we give you the times, you can try to schedule the
Yeah,
department
if you
heads
can
for
give me
that.
the
Okay.
times, or vice versa, so I can find times that work, and then start scheduling that out for next week. Because all of their budget requests have to be to me by Wednesday afternoon before they leave. And then I'll have some fine time over the years. So, yes, it'll all happen. And actually, some of them have already come in, so they are, and I've touched base with most everybody in one way or another. And I have sent out something to all the boards and committees. So when I reached Chris, so he's brought his budget request, and then all the others that had communication with. Cemetery Commission,
Yes.
I have not, so if you
I-
want to
I-
reach
I-
out,
yes,
that
for
would be
sure.
great. And then Paul Wieczoreck is going to come back with his tree budget too, so any outreach you guys can do with your department heads, is really helpful, even ahead of those meetings. So,
Okay. Good.
That's it.
All right. Next is the town administrator report.
I mean, that's a bulk of what I've been doing is a lot of budget related things and trying to get budget requests from boards and committees and department heads. We've been working through the RFPs with the insurance companies. It's been challenging, I think, on both sides as far as trying to meet these deadlines and get the information we need. And so they did ask for a little bit of an extension. I, checked in, looked at the calendar just to make sure it gives us enough time, so I extended it to November 28th for them to submit their proposals to us. I think that's really about as far as we want to extend it, because we want to have plenty of time on this end to review the proposals and make sure that we're really comparing apples to apples. We are going to be meeting with one of the agents in the morning who is having some concerns about, meeting that deadline. And, but I just need to make sure that they're actively doing their part too, to get the information, as well as we're trying to get it to them in a timely manner as well. So we knew it was going to be a push going into this, but we're doing our best because it feels like it's a good thing to do our due diligence on and see what the outcome is. But it's definitely going to be a push on all ends from the insurance companies as well as us. So that's moving forward. And other than that, I think that's really it.
I had a couple of things that probably would be good in this. First of all, thank you for doing the CSWD. I have to admit, I totally blanked that night and went home, and I had planned to go to the meeting, but I don't know, just totally blanked. But, it sounded like the meeting went on and
Yep.
could be productive or was productive.
Yeah, it was a small group, but, there were some of our residents there that I think already had quite a bit of knowledge of the process, but just wanted to be there to hear more. I was there as well as Mitch, which was good for the representation of the DRB and that process. And so I think the meeting went well. What they did was sort of brought more pieces of what is at a drop-off center and asked people to kind of go around with stickers and put out what was important to them. I think what I communicated on behalf of the residents and everything that we've heard is, where should I put the sticker that represents we just want what we had before? And I don't think they were set up for that. They were just trying to kind of go through the details. And but in the end, they acknowledge that even if there's a lot of stickers placed on one piece of that, they're not going to use just that. They still have a process to go through. So I think ultimately, they have a big process in front of them. We're looking at maybe next spring to start at the earliest, to be potentially opening in the summer if they were able to get through the steps that they need to. But we still heard the same steps, that they need to do a survey of some sort. And they were looking for just trying to decide what the residents wanted. So
They have to do a physical survey, a land survey?
they weren't able to really identify what that was because we were trying to explain to them. I mean, the survey's been done. We know the site is there.
Yes.
One concern is they had is the grading. They needed to wait until the project was done. Well, we had the grading plans all the way through. So
Meets the
and it's been
plans,
done. It was been built as built. So so I guess they haven't been able to clearly communicate what it is that is still delaying them, other than they have a process to go through, and I think they're trying to look at all of their drop-off centers. So
Well, I mean, hopefully, I know that people in Hinesburg realize by now, I think, that the select board, the entire town, is behind getting this facility back in place. The town garage was designed around them coming back in place. We'll do whatever it takes to help them do that. We're anxious. The town is anxious to get them back in place. It sounds like people don't want anything special. Understandable, they have to meet maybe new regulations, so it may there may be some things they have to do to meet the existing regulations or any changes in the regulations, but I think people are looking for the basic, they're happy with the minimum standards of a place to bring recyclables, a place to bring their trash for tipping fees, any educational pieces that go along with it, vanilla flavored compost, which they have to do, I think, so.
Right. Yeah.
So hopefully we'll keep moving forward and help them along the way to
Right.
do it as quickly as they can.
And we did reiterate any assistance that they need as far as getting their application to the DRB or anything, we're available to help out.
Good.
One
Well,
more.
thanks for doing that.
Yeah. One other thing we talked about, I had mentioned the motion language from the April 17th, 2017 meeting regarding the
Oh, yeah.
60,000. As I reviewed it again, there was so many different motions made that night, and so as you follow along the minutes, the one I was looking at wasn't the last one. So once I looked at the last one, they're very, very similar. The only thing that was different is in the minutes, with the actual motion, when you watched the meeting, there was a remaining 60,000 to be put into investment account with the interest to be used for environmental stewardship of programs and projects. The programs and projects piece wasn't put in the minutes, but everything else was. Of public lands with priority given to Japrags Park with the funds to be overseen by elected trustees. That's what you guys said. That was what you voted on. The minutes, the only thing the minutes was missing was programs and projects. But again, there were so many different motions, it was hard to even follow along. So
All right. Well, now at
just
least
so
we
you
have the
know, this is
baseline.
what,
Yeah.
yeah,
So should we?
just wanted to follow up on that.
Are you suggesting we need to amend those minutes for
It's-
for that
I mean-
clarity, or does it matter?
It's up to you. I mean, the programs and projects is the difference. So environmental stewardship of programs and projects of public lands, rather than environmental stewardship of public lands with priority, is how this
Well,
reads
I'm of the mindset if that's what the motion was,
to.
we should
to
amend the minutes.
Amend them.
I mean, if that's what we said.
Yeah. So I just wanted to put this in front of you. You guys can decide if that's what if you want to do.
In my mind, we've had a couple of things brought to our attention tonight that could be considered stewardship of public lands. It's just a matter of how we want
Yeah.
to use it. I mean, I think there's some valuable things that we could be doing
Right.
that
Well, I mean,
would
I
really.
think one of the things is in there is that the idea though was that the principal would be invested
Right.
and that we would use the interest for programs and projects.
So, other than it's in a reserve fund, just like any of
Right.
our other reserves, so it's reserved for that purpose.
But
It's not put into any separate type of.
right. So what I was hoping would come out of it, and maybe it wasn't clear, but was that it would be invested similarly to the way the Peck Estate money was invested, and that elected officials would. And those elected officials could either be the select board would oversee that investment, or we could establish a new group, or we could even ask the Peck Estate whether they would oversee a separate, not add it to the Peck, but a separate, since those are our people who have knowledge about how these investments work. And, when the Peck Estate was established, it was a pretty small amount, and that was like, I don't know, 90 years ago or something. But now it is, it does provide good funds for the school. And I would like to know that this amount and that it's a long-term investment that Vermont Gas made in putting that line in. So we should have a long-term strategy for it. I mean, the rec fields are a long-term investment. It's going to be there. But I don't know that we have to do that tonight.
No, I don't think so. And
I would agree with that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I would, well, I think what you're saying is good. I mean, I think I was there that night. It was just like, all right, let's, we knew we wanted to put it aside. And so we
Right.
came up with something that seemed reasonable. It wouldn't be bad after budget season, I think, to have
Yeah.
a discussion and maybe even have, we could invite people to come and say, here's what we're going to use it for. And if in fact that's what we're going to use it for, we should set it up and move that in that direction. Or if there's something else, I think you're alluding to the fact that we have these trees and things that have to be taken care of, and potentially you could use it for
That's
that.
a different type of investment.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
trees are.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I wouldn't have any trouble. I just don't want to be picking away at the 60,000.
Right, right.
Because that'll be gone in a flash.
Yeah.
Well,
And I
yeah,
would
true.
rather see 60,000 and maybe we only get,
With
you
a
know,
long-term-
$500 the first year. Or,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
after 10 years, there'll be some money there that,
Yeah.
and we just have to start sometime
Yeah.
with that
So,
investment.
so let's look at
Yeah.
maybe after budget season, sort of having a discussion about it. And then, even if we don't do anything, we need to set that up.
Right, well, at least it's in a reserve fund.
Yeah.
And it's not, you know, it's
But
not
it's
getting.
not drawing any interest
Yeah.
at this
No,
point.
Right,
but that's
right.
what
It's
I'd like to
reserved
see.
for that purpose,
Yeah.
so it's not, can't be used by
Yeah.
So that's
anything
good.
else.
Thanks for,
Yeah,
I'm sure you
thank you.
spent some
Just wanted to
time
follow up on that.
looking at
Yeah,
that.
no, both
that-
Joy and I looked at had to keep going through it because you all lived it. It was a long meeting and lots of different changes, so. All right.
I mean, there are some movies I like to see over and over. That one's not on my top 10 list.
No,
I remember all the scratch outs I had on my
Yeah.
All right, select board forum. Mary Lee, how's the weather there?
It's not that warm, but it's, the company is fabulous.
Okay. And when you say not that warm, let's not say exactly what it is.
More than
We
air
don't have
quality.
snow.
Okay. I have a few items on select board forum. We did have our wastewater committee meeting. Aaron was there. We had quite a crew. Renee and Joy and Wayne, Elliot, Eric.
Andrew Frost, Alex,
Yep.
Peter.
So there was a lot said. But primarily, we just sort of looked at, what we have, and there was a discussion about the influent coming in, the volume, and the loading, and that they continue to study how much actual phosphorus is coming in and how much ammonia is coming in. So there's a little more data coming together. We do have a tight timeline. I don't think the minutes got on the.
I just got them, so.
Okay, so we did have minutes and some documents that we shared that are going to go on the website. And our next meeting, I think, did we schedule it?
No.
No, not yet. He was
It's-
gonna
yeah.
wait.
So I think, I think maybe in 2 or 3 weeks we'll have another meeting.
It might be longer than that, yeah.
And one thing that was brought up was the fact that we have some industrial users who don't, add a lot of volume, but they do add a lot of load to it. And they're not charged any different amount. And when nobody's saying tomorrow we'll start charging them a different amount, but we probably should look at it and to see, what the loading is, to better understand it, and have some good discussions with them, because they're, it may be we get them to do best practices to help reduce the loading, and other, towns and cities have different rates based on the
And we
loading.
were told that those discussions have informally started,
Yes.
so
Yep.
it's not completely out of the blue.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah, so it's just really getting understanding exactly where we are. There was some discussion about, spending money to prevent stormwater and/or
infiltration.
infiltration from sump pumps and stormwater. I think Wayne, said there's, people have done that, but it's not a very cost-effective method, and
It's
it's very
interesting
difficult.
Some of the other engineers that we talked to had said that it was a significant change to get to get rid of
The
all the
volume.
infiltration
Yeah.
that's coming in from when it rains.
Yeah.
I
And
think
you
the
can
point
s-
that he was making, though, is that it would be significant, but the cost to go about doing that, it wouldn't be of high value.
And/or it wouldn't
His opinion.
change our need to,
Oh,
to
right.
change the
Yeah,
design.
Right.
So,
right,
yeah,
right,
so it's not the solution,
Yeah,
I think.
Right.
Yeah, and it was in the context of that.
Yeah. But, I think there was a need to really focus on the management of that. In the same way, we have to focus the management on water leakage. which is just kind of money out the window in a
Yeah.
way. So that's really money
And
out
not
the
unique
window.
to our town.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was that. I thought it went okay, and we're continuing to move down that path.
Is there any more discussion about exactly where the wastewater, the clean water is actually put into the discharged?
That didn't come up specifically.
So I
at
think
this
that's going
last
to be an
meeting.
important aspect of
The
this
thing I brought
permit.
up?
Yes.
Yeah, to go farther downstream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or count what that volume is back a little bit. Either way,
Yeah.
because I mean, let's face it, it's all going to the same
Sure.
collection point, just a few feet farther down.
Yeah.
So I thought that was an excellent point.
Yeah. So we'll ask
Yeah.
him to bring. We'll have a discussion about that. Bring that. He can bring that in. I know they looked at it briefly, anyways, to sort of see how that would impact. Second item I had was last year, the select board and I think the planning commission.
Yes.
Yeah, did the community meal. It's at the church. It's not a church function. It's at the church. They have a community meal, free community meal once a year.
Friday night meal?
So it's once a month on last Friday. So they're asking if we'll do it in June, and if I look
June?
around, the end of June.
Really? Wow.
That's what we did it last year. I think was that.
That's planning.
So if I get anybody who says, yeah, we're willing to consider that, they're trying to get it on the
They
schedule.
did it May 24th or May
Oh, they
something
did?
last year.
So
Right
this is the last week of June.
Okay.
So if I get anybody who's kind of shakes their head and says, yeah,
Sure,
all
why
right.
not? I mean,
So
it was-
I'll tell them, put it on the calendar. We'll get the planning commission and any other boards to participate. I think everybody who did it said, hey, there's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was
and
good,
you
man.
get a lot of people come in that, it's a good community event. So that's that. The CSWD we talked about. So we got some feedback on speed limits. Somebody who lives not on Birchwood, but
Off of Wildwood.
Yeah,
no,
Wildwood.
is it Wildwood or?
so Birchwood is like a big loop, and then there's a road in
Wildwood,
between,
yeah.
and Birchwood is 25.
One was 25, the other one was.
The one that connects is 35. So they were aware that was a problem, and he didn't want to make any changes.
Yeah, on the
Yet,
round.
right? So we just sort of got it all written down, and that they would address that in the next
He was
change.
setting it up for any revisions.
Right.
Right.
That was
That,
part of the
setting it
process
up.
he introduced
right.
to us. Yep.
Yeah.
So, I think somebody was looking at it closely and
Good.
said, wait a minute, 35? That
That's
seems
good.
ridiculous. But it's always been 35 in a way. It's just now it's defined.
That is just reflective of what the current speed limit.
But, so we'll move forward on that. Do you want to talk about Palmer?
Well,
I mean, it's something in the courts.
right.
And so it's
not
continuing.
really
Yeah, it's continuing.
Yeah.
And then I think it's okay to say the Forest Committee is looking at renaming one of the trails
Yep.
in the town forest after Steve Russell. So they're going through the process, talking to Fellowship of the Wheel, and they'll probably I would think they might come to the Select Board and sort of get it official. So it seemed like a good way to honor.
Is that something
Somebody.
that we need to overstamp, or is that
I
within
don't
the
think so,
purview
but they'll
of the Trails
probably
Committee?
come to us and say they're doing it.
Yeah,
So they're just keeping us informed.
Right.
that's good.
And that's all I had.
I can report on a committee that Andrea and I are both serving on in the water allocation. And we're still meeting. We have another meeting coming up in next Tuesday and after, I think. And we're going through the process of determining criteria. And now we've sort of done that part. And now we're at the process of how to rank that criteria with an eye towards a report to this board by the end of the year. So bottom line, work continues. We've made some progress, but we're not there yet. But we will be in time.
Good. Marilee, did you have anything or not? You don't need to.
Well, it's hard just to listen. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm here, but it's a lot better than it was last time.
Okay, no problem.
I'll be back on Saturday morning.
All right.
So I hope you all have wonderful Thanksgivings.
Okay, thanks. You you're all set? Well,
Nope, I've got the Quadra, of course, January
that?
January 4th, Friday.
January 4th.
4th, Phil, come on.
fourth, sorry.
Tickets are now on sale. You can get them in person at the Jiffy Mart, or you can go online at hinesburgrec.com and get them online now. That's a great feature. And just an update on the actual fields. They actually have started installing the fencing. The weather kind of hasn't helped them.
Is it snow fencing?
They will be. But I heard they were pouring concrete today, so they're making
Really?
good progress. And I believe once they get their poles in, it should zip right along. So,
Solid news.
yep. Solid news. Nice one, Aaron. So get your tickets. Come on out and have fun.
I think last year I went online with the rec committee, and you have to like submit it, get password and
Yeah.
all that.
Yeah.
So I've already done that,
Get an
so I'm
account.
ready to go.
Right, once you're in,
get an
you're in.
account, yeah. All right, so next item on the agenda is minutes from November 5th. There's like 6 pages here.
Well, I can make a motion to approve the minutes as amended if needed.
Second.
I
I had,
2 very minor things. Go ahead.
I had it under the, let's see, when we were talking about the water, the allocation, which is on page 1. Consider wastewater allocation for BlackRock. It says Andrea M. would like to ensure that needs that have been identified I'd like to reword that sentence. So Andrea M. wanted to ensure that the needs for affordable units identified in the Housing Needs Assessment Report be included as part of the allocation. 10 units have been suggested in addition to the 5 already required as part of inclusionary zoning regulation 5.21.9.
Are you going to send that?
I will. Yeah, I'll send it to Renee.
Oh, yeah, I'll do
Yeah,
it.
okay.
Send it to me, won't do any good.
That's
Okay.
right.
All right, did you have another one?
Nope.
On page, holy mackerel, 1, 2, 3, 4. Page 5, about a third of the way down, Phil P. said he thought that his could be a way to find this could be a way to find a peaceful resolution.
You're on page 5?
Page 5, I think.
4th paragraph.
Yep.
It's tough because they're not numbered.
Yeah. I'll put
What-
numbers on them.
So it's the 4th
Yeah, so-
paragraph, page 5.
Between Andrea M. and Frank Tworig.
Renee,
Yeah.
if you have this as a Word document,
I'll see. I don't know if she sent it to me as
because
a Word. I'll check.
I only have it, I think, as a PDF, because
Okay.
I normally put the numbers
Okay.
and such.
I
Then
will see.
I did have one more. Did you get that one?
No, I was trying to find page 5.
Keep going.
Just
No.
not this one.
Let's see. No. Let's see. Oh, that's only page 4. So keep going.
One more page.
Yeah. And right there,
Phil P.
Phil P. said he thought instead of his, this.
Okay.
I'm gonna get really picky for the last one. Bottom of page 6. There's a fat paragraph. You got it there. Phil P. It starts with.
Yep.
But about halfway through, Andrea M. said the vote would be. You really need a comma there.
Andrea M.
Said the vote would be, comma, should the town acquire lot 15, not using taxpayer dollars. So it's just a comma after B,
Or quote it or something.
or quote it, yeah,
Just something that states that,
to break it up.
identifying what she's stating as the,
Yeah, maybe put quotation marks around it or something. Should, and capitalize would be quotation marks. Should the town acquire the lot 15, not using taxpayer dollars? end quotes.
Right.
Exactly.
And that was it. Any other comments or? Okay, so there's a couple of minor edits. All those in favor of approving the minutes with those edits, say aye.
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 Aye. And Andrea says aye too. I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm thinking about leaving. I have to go pick somebody up.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, we're getting there. Okay,
Make a motion to approve warrants, including payroll.
They're
That's
there.
it right here.
Yeah.
As given to us by the clerk.
Signatures.
Second.
and I don't think there's any comments on that, so all those in favor of approving the warrants, say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, so everyone's approved. So that's it. We could adjourn, but we do have signatures. 1 page of signatures that we have to get
You guys
from
wanna
everybody.
start?
We can adjourn and then sign after, right?
Yes, we can.
So motion to adjourn.
Second.
Seconded by Andrea. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Mary, do you want to sign first?
And Mary Lee
Well,
says
I'll go
aye.
get
Thanks
my,
for joining us.
salad stuff.
Mary Lee, I think we're all set.